Hi everybody, welcome to a new project that I'm starting. It's called Jesus and the Jedi. It's about two things that are very near and dear to my heart, Star Wars and the Catholic faith. I've been inspired to give a video series on several major themes in Star Wars and how they can be used to understand a bit more of the Catholic faith. Now, this is not going to be an attempt to have a faithful interpretation of Star Wars and the whole universe, and everything that George Lucas intended in there. Some of you may be, right now, jumping with glee and delight that I'm not trying to give you Lucas's picture. Others might be very disappointed. But regardless of that, I'm trying to give you a little picture of how we can better understand the Catholic faith through these amazing, force-wielding, lightsaber-fighting Jedi. Now, the first episode I want to talk to you about, the topic of this episode, is going to be the analogy we can draw between the different kinds of grace that we see that God gives us and the ways that the Force works in the Star Wars universe. Now, a major way, I see two major ways, actually, that the Force works in the Star Wars universe. The first is what we could call the Force working in everything. It binds us, it penetrates us, it gathers the entire universe together, it holds it in being, as it were. All things are touched by the Force. All things are somehow made active by it. And the second way that the Force works in the Star Wars universe is the very flashy, particular way that it works through those who, what we call Force sensitive in the universe. Those Jedi, Sith, and other people who are not members of those particular orders. Now we can see an amazing analogy here between these two ways and two kinds of grace that are in the universe. So, St. Thomas Aquinas talks about two particular kinds of grace among many, but two I want to highlight here. The first is what we could call the grace of the Creator. Since, as is clear, none of us exists through ourselves, we came from somewhere, we also have to get the energy, the activity, the way that we act from somewhere. In fact, our very existence and everything that comes from that existence is a gift from God. It's completely God's grace. It's not us, but it's given to everything in the universe. Since nothing in the universe can create itself and even sustain itself in existence, strictly speaking, we can see all things are permeated, are penetrated by this grace of existence. This grace of existence gives everything its ability to even act. Every breath that you take is a sign of this grace. You're acting by this grace of existence. Anything that you can do, from dancing, to sword fighting, to even picking up a sandwich or watching the amazing Star Wars trilogy and the rest of the saga, is done through your existence, your actuality, the gift that God gives you because you exist. And God continues to give you this gift for as long as you exist. Very much like the Force, it's in everything, this grace. Because if it wouldn't, it couldn't exist. Now, onto the second very flashy particular way that the Jedi can bring things to themselves. They can act on the universe. Force pushes, all sorts of backflips, all sorts of defense mechanisms, defense techniques, and lightsaber battles. The way that the Jedi interact with the universe. In the universe, they become a channel for the Force. They allow the Force to act through them in very particular ways. Now, these are designated individuals. These are individuals that are not the normal people in the universe. Obviously, there are lots of things that are borrowed from the Star Wars trilogy, by the Star Wars trilogy, from the structure of the Catholic priesthood. There are 3 ranks of Jedi: Padawan, Knight, and Master. And from these Masters, a small number are picked to be the head and governing body of the order, which they have one head. Now, Yoda is the Pope of the Jedi Order. Yoda is elected from this small council to be head of the council. just as the Pope is elected by the cardinals, who are selected from the rank of master, which we would call bishops. So in this, Padawans are deacons, Jedi are knights, and masters are bishops, who have the power to create new knights. Now, those are rather superficial images that are borrowed from Star Wars. What's more important is this idea of a channel from the Force to the world. The Jedi are chosen. Not everyone is a Jedi, but they're chosen among those chosen by the Force, actually, and are given the ability to bring the Force into the world in a more powerful way than just what we could call the Force grace of existence. Now, there's an image that I'm going to return to from the Star Wars trilogy several times throughout this project. And it's in the novelization of Episode 3 by Matthew Stover, a fantastic book. In there, right before Obi-Wan is going to step into the Trade Federation ship on Utapau and face General Grievous, he lets go of everything that could hold him back from the Force flowing purely through him. He lets go of even what he wants to happen in the battle. He allows himself to become a pure channel, completely unimpeding the Force from working through him. And when the Force works through him, amazing things happen. Now, the priesthood in the Catholic Church are those chosen by Christ to give sanctifying grace to the people of God. They are the people who allow themselves to be a channel so that the world may be saved, so that the souls of everyone may receive the very life of God, that they may be impacted by grace in a very particular and special way. These are very flashy ways, because they have a visible and an invisible part. The invisible part is grace coming through, and the visible part is the sign of the sacraments. We get to use oil. We see bread and wine. We see all of these things that are visible, that are communicating invisible grace, sanctifying grace. Just as the Jedi allow the Force to flow through them in an invisible way that has visible effects in the world. Now, it's not a perfect analogy, but this idea of the Jedi being the channel between the Force and the world, and the priest being the channel of grace and the people, is a crucial aspect to both of the universes. And what's important here is the more one allows God's grace to work in one's life, just like Obi-Wan gets rid of all the obstacles to the Force working through him, the more powerful and striking the effects will be. If one really wants sanctifying grace to have a powerful effect in one's life, one has to get rid of all of the obstacles one places to grace working. Not in the same way as Obi-Wan does, but we can see that the priest has a crucial role, and his holiness has a crucial role in the effects on the people. It's more complicated than that. But we can see a very good picture of the priesthood in the Jedi. Again, to sum up, we have two kinds of grace, just as the Force works in two ways. One, it binds us, penetrates us, gathers us all together. The grace of existence sustains everything in being at every instant and allows everything to act. And then the second, the force of the Jedi, as it were, is like sanctifying grace. They're very particular people, chosen by the Force, chosen by God to be a channel into the world, into the people of God, for grace. And the more that you cooperate with this grace, or the Force, the more you get out of the way from allowing grace to work, the more powerful the effects are. Now, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I'll be talking a lot about spirituality, about the different ways the Force works, about the Jedi and the Sith, about celibacy, actually, which is a major part of the Jedi Order. And we'll see that later, regardless of what Episode 7 brings us. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Eddie Lazari. This has been Jesus and the Jedi. And remember, His grace will be with you, always.